Have you ever seen a mother who devoted her youth to her child and then was left out? You know that pain, right? Hello, my sweet friends. It's me again. Eva, the 65-year-old gossip from Eufaula. I'm sitting here on my porch, sipping sweet tea. The magnolia breeze carrying memories of the days when we gave it all away tears. Dreams, and only to feel like shadows sometimes. Today, I have a story that will touch your soul. About a woman whose love was mocked by those she held dear, but she rose like a flame in the Alabama night. This is our fourth story together. I hope you enjoy it as much as my first three. Even though it's clumsy, and it will be like we're chatting over pecan pie. So get comfortable, grab your coffee, and let's share a heart-to-heart story. Hit subscribe and leave your thoughts below. What makes your heart strong? Let's find out now. The fire crackled softly, its golden glow dancing across the faces gathered around it. The night air at Lake Tahoe was crisp, scented with pine and smoke, and the moon hung low, casting a silver sheen over the glassy water. I stood there, my heart pounding, a glass of red wine trembling in my hand. The cabin behind us, a sturdy wooden thing I'd spent a year saving for, loomed like a silent witness. My family, Tom, my husband, Michael, my son, Emily, his wife, their baby, Liam, and Emily's mother, Linda, with her kids. Ethan and Chloe sat in a loose circle, their eyes on me. I wasn't one for speeches, never had been. But tonight, I had to speak. Tonight, I had to make them see. Susan, you okay? Tom asked, his voice low, his grey eyes catching the firelight. He knew me better than anyone. Knew when my quiet meant a storm was brewing. I gave him a small nod, my fingers brushing the heart-shaped pendant around my neck, a gift from Michael when he graduated college. Engraved with thanks. Mom. That pendant had been my anchor through years of sleepless nights, baking birthday cakes and stitching Halloween costumes. But now, it felt heavy, like a reminder of something lost. I took a deep breath, the cold air sharp in my lungs. This vacation, I began. My voice steady despite the knot in my chest, was my dream, a dream I've held since Michael was a boy. When I'd tuck him in and tell him stories about Lake Tahoe, the blue water, the pine trees, the way the stars feel close enough to touch. I planned this for us, for me, Tom, Michael, Emily, and little Liam. I wanted us to sit here, roast marshmallows, play Uno like we used to, and just be a family. The fire popped, sending a spark into the air. Michael shifted in his camp chair, his phone glowing in his lap. Emily sat beside him, her blonde hair tucked into a messy bun, her eyes darting to Linda, who was sipping wine with a smug smile. Ethan and Chloe, sprawled on a blanket, were whispering and laughing, oblivious. Liam slept in his stroller, his tiny chest rising and falling. I wanted to stop there, to keep the peace, to be the Susan who always smoothed things over. But I couldn't. Not after what they'd done. I spent a year saving for this. I continued, my voice growing firmer. Every penny for the cabin, the boat rental, the groceries for our BBQ. I brought that old Uno deck Michael loved, the one we played when he was 10. I even packed a photo album, pictures of us through the years. But none of that mattered, did it? I looked at Emily, then Linda, then Michael. Their faces tightened, sensing something coming. Because you decided my dream wasn't good enough. You invited Linda, Ethan, and Chloe without asking me. You booked a bigger cabin, told me to pay $2,000 for it, and laughed when I said I wanted marshmallows instead of your fancy fondue. You tore a page from my album, Emily, and called it junk. You spread rumors, said I was too cheap to make this vacation special, and you, Michael. My voice cracked, but I pushed on. You called me old-fashioned, said I was embarrassing you in front of Emily's family. Michael's head snapped up, his mouth opening, but I raised a hand. Let me finish. There's something you need to know. The firelight flickered. and I felt the weight of every sacrifice I'd made every late night, every dollar saved, every tear shed, 2 years ago. When you and Emily bought your house in Naperville, you were drowning in debt. Liam was on the way, and you were scared. I saw it, even if you never said it. So I paid off $100,000 of your mortgage. I sold a piece of land my mother left me, land I'd planned to keep for my retirement. I never told you because I didn't want thanks. I wanted you to have a home, a life, a family without fear. A gasp escaped Emily's lips. Michael's phone slipped from his hand, landing in the dirt. Linda's wineglass froze, halfway to her mouth, her eyes wide. Ethan and Chloe stopped whispering, their faces pale. Tom reached for my hand, his grip warm and steady, but I wasn't done. Last week, I said, my voice now clear as the Tahoe sky. When I realized how little you valued me, I made another choice. I went to my lawyer and changed my will. I took you and Emily out of it. Michael, the house in Naperville. My savings, everything goes to a charity for orphaned kids in our town. I'm not angry. I'm just done. Done being the mother who's mocked, ignored, and humiliated. I love you, but I deserve respect not just for what I've done, but for who I am. Silence fell, heavy as the night. The fire crackled and a log collapsed, sending sparks skyward. Michael's eyes were red, his hands shaking. Mom, he whispered. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Emily's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. $100,000, she choked out. You did that. Why didn't you tell us the will? You're serious. Her voice was desperate, almost accusing, as if I'd betrayed her by standing up for myself. Emily, I said, my tone soft but unyielding. I didn't tell you because love doesn't keep score. But love also doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. You spread lies about me, said I was stingy. You tore my memories apart. And you. Linda, I turned to her, her smug smile gone. You called me a small-town granny in front of everyone, demanded $2,000 like I was your servant. I'm not here to be your punching bag. Linda's face flushed crimson. Susan, you're blowing this out of proportion, she snapped, her voice shrill. It's just a vacation. I was trying to make it better. Better for who? Tom cut in, his voice low and firm. You humiliated my wife, Linda. You don't get to play the victim now. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, muttering to Chloe. This is messed up. Chloe nodded, avoiding my gaze. Liam stirred in his stroller, letting out a soft whimper, and for a moment, I wanted to scoop him up, to run from this fire and this pain. But I stood my ground, my pendant glinting in the firelight. Mom, Michael said again, standing now, his voice breaking. I was wrong. I shouldn't have let Emily and Linda take over. I shouldn't have laughed at you. Please, don't do this. The will. We can fix this. I looked at him, my boy, the one I'd rocked to sleep, the one I'd cheered for at every baseball game. My heart ached, but it wasn't weak. Michael, I said, I love you. I love Emily and Liam. But love doesn't mean I let you hurt me. I'll think about the will, but only if you show me you understand what family really means. I raised my glass, the wine catching the fire's glow. To dreams, I said, and to love, even when it's hard. Tom squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with pride. The others sat in stunned silence, the weight of my words settling over them like the Tahoe mist. I sat down, my legs trembling, but my heart steady. For the first time in years, I felt seen not as a mother who gave everything, but as Susan, a woman who deserved more than scraps of gratitude. I've always loved this kitchen in Naperville, where I'm sitting now, telling you this story. The way the morning sun spills through the window, warming the oak table where I've rolled out dough for Michael's birthday cakes, where I've cried over bills and laughed over coffee with Tom. It's where I planned that Lake Tahoe vacation, dreaming of a week that would bring us closer. But dreams, like the leaves falling outside, can scatter in the wind. What happened to push me to that fireside speech, to make me stand up and say those things? How did my own son, my daughter-in-law, and her mother turn my dream into a nightmare? It started months ago, in this very kitchen. When I first told Michael and Emily about the trip, I thought they'd be thrilled: a cozy cabin, a boat ride, a chance to make memories with Liam. But Emily rolled her eyes, said my plans were kind of basic, and Michael laughed, saying, "Mom, you're stuck in the 80s. I brushed it off, like I always did, thinking they'd come around. But then Linda got involved, and everything changed. Linda called me one afternoon, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Susan, I found a better cabin, bigger, fancier, perfect for all of us. Emily invited me, Ethan and Chloe. You'll pay half, right, $2,000. It's a steal." I was stunned. $2,000 was nearly all I'd saved, and I'd already booked our cabin. When I tried to explain, she cut me off. "Come on, Susan, don't be the small-town granny who pinches pennies." I heard Ethan and Chloe laughing in the background, and my stomach twisted. I texted Emily, hoping she'd clear things up. "Emily, why didn't you ask me about inviting your family? I planned this for us." Her reply was cold. "Mom, chill out. Linda's making it epic. Your BBQ and stuff is boring." When I called Michael, he sighed. "Mom, just go with it. Emily wants this, and I don't want to fight her. Your plans are, well, a bit old school." Old school. The word stung, like a slap from the boy I'd raised. Then came the worst part. Emily started telling her friends I was too cheap to fund a real vacation, that I was holding everyone back. I overheard her on the phone, laughing Susan's obsessed with her little cabin and some dusty photo album. So embarrassing. The album she mocked was one I'd spent weeks making, filled with pictures of Michael's childhood, our family through the years. One night, she accidentally tore a page out, a photo of Michael and me at his first baseball game, and tossed it aside. "Oops," she said, smirking. "This old junk takes up space." Linda chimed in, "Susan, you should declutter. Nobody cares about that stuff." Michael didn't defend me. Instead, he laughed with them, saying, "Yeah, Mom, you're turning into a hoarder." I stood there, my heart breaking, the pendant around my neck feeling like a lie. I'd given them everything: my time, my money, my love. I'd sold my mother's land to pay off their $100,000 debt, never asking for a thank you. And this was how they repaid me. I went to my lawyer the next week, my hands shaking as I signed the papers to change my will. I didn't want to hurt Michael or Emily, but I couldn't keep giving to people who treated me like dirt. I decided to tell them at Tahoe, to stand up for myself in a way I never had. That night by the fire, when I spoke those words, I wasn't just Susan the mom, I was Susan, the woman who'd earned her place in this world. What happened next? How did Michael, Emily, and Linda react after that night? And could our family ever heal? I'll tell you the rest, but I want to hear from you first. If you've ever felt your love was taken for granted, if you've ever had to stand up for yourself, you'll understand why I did what I did. Subscribe to our channel and drop a comment. What would you do if you were me? Let's walk through this journey together, from the pain to the hope, and see how a woman in her 60s found her voice by the shores of Lake Tahoe. Every morning, I sit in my kitchen in Naperville, sipping coffee as the sun spills through the lace curtains, painting golden stripes across the oak table. The smell of roasted beans mixes with the faint sweetness of the roses I've tended in the backyard for 30 years. This kitchen is my sanctuary, where I've kneaded dough for Michael's birthday cakes, balanced checkbooks late at night, and dreamed up plans to keep our family close. It's where I planned the Lake Tahoe vacation, the one I thought would bring us together. Me, Tom, Michael, Emily, and little Liam, my 6-month-old grandson. But dreams, like the golden leaves falling outside, can scatter in an instant. That's what happened last September, when my family turned my dream into a wound I'm still healing from. It all started 6 months ago, right here at this table. I'd been saving for a year, tucking away every spare dollar from my part-time job at the Naperville Library. I wanted to take us to Lake Tahoe, a place that's lived in my heart since 1978, when Tom and I first visited. We were young then, barely married, sitting on a rickety dock by the lake, the water so blue it looked like a jewel under the September sun. We promised each other we'd bring our kids there one day, to share the magic of pine-scented air, starlit nights, and the kind of quiet that makes you feel whole. When Michael was born, I'd tell him bedtime stories about Tahoe, promising we'd go when he was old enough. Life got in the way: bills, baseball games, college tuition, but last year, at 60, I decided it was time. I could see it so clearly, a cozy wooden cabin by the lake, its windows glowing with lamplight. We'd rent a pontoon boat, drift across the water with Liam giggling in my arms. We'd have a BBQ, the smell of grilled burgers mingling with laughter. I'd bring the old UNO deck Michael loved as a kid, the cards worn from years of games by the fireplace. I even spent weeks making a photo album, pasting in pictures of Michael's first steps, our family camping trips, and Tom and me dancing at our 10th anniversary. It was my gift to them, a way to say, look how far we've come. I thought Michael and Emily would be thrilled. I thought they'd see how much this meant to me. I was wrong. It started with a phone call one chilly March afternoon. I was in the kitchen, stirring sugar into my coffee. When the phone rang, it was Linda, Emily's mother, her voice bright but sharp, like a knife wrapped in silk. Susan. Great news, I found a better cabin for Tahoe, bigger, fancier, perfect for all of us. Emily invited me, Ethan, and Chloe to join. You'll cover half. Write $2,000. It's a steal. Her words hit me like a slap. $2,000 was almost everything I'd saved, and I'd already booked a cabin, a small one, but warm and just right for us. I gripped the phone, my coffee forgotten, the roses outside blurring through the window. Linda, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've already reserved a cabin. I planned this for our family, me, Tom, Michael, Emily, and Liam. Why didn't anyone ask me? Linda laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Oh, Susan, don't be such a small-town granny pinching pennies. Your little cabin's fine for you, but we need something with class. Ethan and Chloe are coming, and we can't squeeze into your shack. $2,000, nothing for a real vacation. I heard laughter in the background, Ethan and Chloe. I guessed, and my stomach twisted. They were laughing at me, at my dream. Linda, $2,000 is a lot for me. I said, my voice shaking now. I've been saving all year. Can we talk about this? Talk, she said, her tone turning cold. Susan, I've already booked it. Emily said you'd be fine. Don't make this awkward. She hung up, leaving me staring at the phone. The kitchen suddenly too quiet. The roses outside seemed to droop, their petals curling like my hope. I texted Emily, praying it was a misunderstanding. Emily, why didn't you tell me you invited your family? I planned this for us. $2,000 is more than I can afford. Her reply came fast. Sharp as a thorn, Mom. Chill out. Linda's making it epic. Your BBQ and UNO stuff is boring. Just pay the $2,000, it's not a big deal. I read the message again, my heart sinking. Boring. My dream, the one I'd poured my soul into, was boring to her. I called Michael, my voice trembling. Michael, did you know about this Linda's cabin? The $2,000, I can't afford it. and nobody asked me. He sighed, the way he does when he's annoyed. Mom, yeah, I knew. Emily wanted her family there, and I didn't want to fight her. Linda's cabin is better hot tub, big kitchen, the works. Your plans are, well, kinda old school. Just go with it. Okay, don't make a fuss. Old school. The word cut deeper than I expected, coming from the boy I'd raised, the one I'd stayed up with through fevers, the one I'd cheered for at every game. I'd sold my mother's land 2 years ago to pay off $100,000 of his and Emily's mortgage, never asking for a thank you. And now he was siding with them, dismissing me like I was a nuisance. Michael, I said, my throat tight. This was supposed to be our family vacation. I've been saving for a year. Doesn't that mean anything, Mom? You're making it weird, he said, his voice sharp. Emily's right, your cabin's too small. And nobody wants to play Uno. Let Linda handle it. She knows how to do things right. He hung up. And I sat there, the phone cold in my hand, the kitchen closing in around me. The roses outside looked faded, their beauty mocked by the wind. I tried to hold on, to believe they didn't mean it, but then I heard what Emily was saying behind my back. A neighbor, Karen, stopped by one day with a casserole and a worried look. Susan, she said, stirring her tea, I hate to tell you this, but Emily's been talking to her friends at the yoga studio. She said you're too cheap to fund a real vacation, that you're holding everyone back with your sad little cabin. I didn't want to believe it, but I thought you should know. My heart stopped. Cheap, I'd given them everything, my time, my money, my love. I'd paid off their debt, sold my future to secure theirs, and this was how Emily repaid me. The final blow came a week before we left for Tahoe. I'd invited Emily and Michael over to show them the photo album I'd made, hoping it would remind them of our family, of what this trip meant. I set it on the coffee table, the cover embossed with our memories in gold. Michael barely glanced at it, too busy texting. Emily flipped through a few pages, then laughed a cold, cutting sound. Susan, this is so old-fashioned. Who makes albums anymore? It's just taking up space. Before I could stop her, she tugged at a page, a photo of Michael and me at his first baseball game, him in a too-big jersey, me beaming beside him. The page tore, and she tossed it aside. Oops, she said, smirking. This junk's falling apart anyway. I froze, my breath catching. That photo wasn't junk. It was a piece of my heart, a memory of the boy who'd once run to me, arms wide, calling me his hero. Michael looked up, saw the torn page, and laughed. Mom, you're turning into a hoarder. Maybe Emily's right time to declutter. Linda, who'd stopped by to drop off Liam, chimed in from the doorway. Susan, you should listen to Emily. Nobody cares about dusty old pictures. You're stuck in the past. I stood there, my hands trembling, the pendant around my neck feeling like a lie. I'd given them all my savings, my memories, my mother's land. 2 years ago, I'd sat in this kitchen, signing the check for $100,000, my hands shaking as I handed over my security to give them a home. I'd never told them, never wanted praise, but now their laughter, their cruelty, cut deeper than any knife. I was their mother-in-law, their grandmother, and to them, I was nothing but a joke. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, the torn photo in my hands. The roses outside swayed in the wind, their petals falling like tears. I remembered my mother, gone 10 years now, her voice soft but strong. Susan, you'll always carry the load, but don't let anyone make you forget your worth. Her words lit a spark in me, a quiet fire that grew with every tear. I couldn't keep giving to people who mocked me, who tore my heart apart and called it junk. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. The next day, I changed my will, leaving my house and savings to a charity for orphaned kids in Naperville. I wasn't angry. I was tired of being invisible. I decided to tell them at Tahoe, to stand up in a way I never had. That night by the fire, when I spoke those words, I wasn't just fighting for a vacation. I was fighting for myself, for the woman I'd forgotten how to be. But what happened after that speech? How did Michael, Emily, and Linda face the truth? And could we ever find our way back to being a family? I'm telling you this story because I know you felt it too, the sting of giving your all and getting nothing back. Maybe it was a child, a friend, or a dream you held dear. If Susan's story speaks to you, stick with us. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Have you ever had to stand up for your worth? What did you do? Let's walk through Susan's journey together, from the pain to the hope, and see how a woman in her 60s found her strength by the shores of Lake Tahoe. The morning sun glittered on Lake Tahoe, turning the water into a sheet of sapphire that stretched toward the pine-covered mountains. I stood on the porch of our cabin, a sturdy wooden thing nestled among the trees, and breathed in the crisp air, heavy with the scent of sap and earth. It was our first full day here. And despite everything, the $2,000 Linda had demanded, Emily's cruel words, Michael's betrayal, I still hoped we could salvage this vacation. I pictured us laughing over a BBQ, the sizzle of burgers mingling with the chatter of family. Liam's giggles as we played Uno by the fire. I'd packed that old deck, its cards faded from years of Michael's small hands, and the photo album, even with its torn page, tucked carefully in my suitcase. Maybe, I thought, they'd see how much this meant to me. Maybe they'd remember who I was. But hope, like the golden leaves back home in Naperville, can fall faster than you expect. By the end of that day, I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated, mocked in front of everyone, my dream trampled by the people I loved most. And yet, in that pain, I felt something stir, a quiet strength I hadn't known I still had. Let me take you back to that day, to the lake's edge, where my heart broke open and my resolve began to grow. We'd planned to start the day with a boat ride, something I'd saved for months to afford. I could already see Liam's tiny face lighting up as we glided across the water, the wind tousling his soft curls. I'd dressed simply a navy sweater, jeans, my heart-shaped pendant glinting at my throat. A gift from Michael when he was still my boy. Not the man who'd called me old school to please his wife. Tom was loading the cooler with sodas and sandwiches, his flannel shirt rolled up, his grey hair catching the sunlight. Ready for this? Susan, he asked, his voice warm. The only steady thing in my world right now. Ready, I said, forcing a smile. I glanced at the cabin, expecting Michael and Emily to emerge with Liam, but instead, Linda strode out, her designer sunglasses perched on her nose, her voice cutting through the morning quiet. Susan. Change of plans, she called, waving her phone like a scepter. I booked us a table at that Italian place in South Lake Tahoe, best pasta in town. Forget the boat. It's too chilly for Liam anyway. Ethan and Chloe trailed behind her, smirking, their matching athleisure outfits screaming money. I froze, my hands tightening on the cooler's handle. Linda, I said, keeping my voice even. The boat's already paid for. I thought we'd all go together. Liam loves the water, and I brought a blanket to keep him warm. Linda laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound that echoed across the lake. A blanket, Susan. This isn't Naperville's kiddie pool. Liam needs a proper outing, not some budget boat ride. The restaurant's got a view, and I've got us a private room. You're welcome, she turned to Ethan, who was scrolling on his phone. Right, Ethan class over cheap. Every time. Ethan snorted, not looking up. Yeah, Mom. Susan's boat sounds like a snooze fest. Chloe giggled, snapping a selfie with the lake in the background, probably for Instagram. where Emily had already posted about our epic vacation, never mentioning me. I looked at Tom, hoping for backup, but before he could speak, Emily emerged from the cabin, pushing Liam's stroller. Her blonde hair was pulled into a high ponytail, and she wore a sleek black jacket that screamed city chic, not lakeside casual. "Susan," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Mom's right. The restaurant's way better for Liam. Your boat thing's kinda basic. No offense." She flashed a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and my chest tightened. Basic. The same word she'd used when she tore my photo album, when she spread rumors that I was too cheap to make this trip special. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking despite myself. "This boat ride isn't just a thing. It's something I planned for us, for Liam. I've been saving for it all year. Doesn't that matter?" She rolled her eyes, adjusting Liam's blanket. "Susan, you're so dramatic. It's just a boat. Mom's restaurant is Michelin star quality. Liam deserves that, not some rickety rental. Besides, Michael agrees with me." She glanced at the cabin door, where Michael appeared, his phone in hand, his expression annoyed. "Mom," he said, not even looking at me. "Let's not make a big deal out of this. Emily and Linda have a point. The restaurant's better, and I don't want to deal with a fussy baby on a boat. Your plans are, well, they're a bit old-fashioned, you know." He laughed, a short, cutting sound, and I felt it like a knife, old-fashioned. The boy I'd raised, the one I'd sold my mother's land for to pay off his $100,000 mortgage, was laughing at me, siding with the people who mocked my dream. "Michael," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "This was supposed to be our family vacation. I thought you'd want to make memories with Liam, like we did when you were little." He sighed, finally meeting my eyes. But there was no warmth there. "Mom, you're embarrassing me in front of Emily's family. Just go with the restaurant. Okay, Linda's got this. Your BBQ and Uno stuff is cute, but it's not what we're doing." He turned to Emily, who smirked, and I realized he'd known about Linda's plan all along. He'd chosen her, chosen them, over me. Tom stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Michael, that's enough. Your mother worked hard for this. You don't get to talk to her like that." But Linda cut in, her voice loud enough for the neighbors' cabins to hear. "Tom, relax. Susan's making a fuss over nothing. She's stuck in her small-town granny mode, thinking a $20 boat ride's a big deal. Let's be real, she can't afford a real vacation, so I stepped in. You're welcome. Susan." She adjusted her sunglasses, smirking, and Ethan and Chloe burst out laughing, their voices carrying across the lake like a taunt. I stood there, my face burning, the pendant at my throat feeling like a weight. Small-town granny. Can't afford a real vacation. The words echoed, each one a stab. I'd paid $2,000, nearly all my savings, because Linda demanded it. And now she was humiliating me in front of everyone, painting me as a failure. And my son, my Michael, just stood there, letting it happen. The day only got worse. We went to Linda's precious restaurant, a sleek place with floor-to-ceiling windows and waiters in crisp white shirts. The bill came to $500, and Linda, with a smile that could cut glass, slid it toward me. "Susan, you'll cover this." "Right, I mean, I already paid for the cabin." She knew I'd already given her $2,000, knew I was stretched thin, but she wanted to see me squirm. Ethan and Chloe snickered, and Emily leaned into Michael, whispering something that made him chuckle. I paid. My hands shaking as I handed over my credit card, feeling their eyes on me, judging, mocking. Back at the cabin, I tried to set up for the BBQ I'd planned, hoping to reclaim some piece of my dream. I laid out the checkered tablecloth my mother had sewn, set up the grill, and arranged the burgers and buns with care. I even brought out the Uno deck, thinking maybe Liam could touch the cards, feel the history in their worn edges. But when Emily saw it, she laughed, loud and cruel. "Susan, are you serious, Uno? What is this? 1985, Liam's not playing your dusty old games." She picked up the deck and tossed it onto the top ball, knocking over a glass of lemonade that soaked the tablecloth. "Oops," she said, smirking again. "This thing's ancient anyway. You should toss it." Linda, lounging in a deck chair, chimed in. "Honestly, Susan, you're embarrassing yourself. Nobody wants your sad little BBQ. I brought fondue, real fondue. Not this backyard nonsense. Maybe if you'd spent less time hoarding junk like that album, you'd have money for a proper vacation." She gestured to the photo album, which I'd left on the table, hoping to share it later. Before I could stop her, she flipped it open, pulled out another page, a picture of Michael and me at his high school graduation, and crumpled it. "This is trash," she said, tossing it into the dirt. "You need to move on." "Susan," I gasped, my heart lurching. That album was my life, my memories, my love. I bent to pick up the crumpled photo, my hands trembling, but Emily stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "Susan, let it go. Nobody cares about your old pictures. You're making everyone uncomfortable." She turned to Michael, who was scrolling on his phone, and he laughed, a cold, dismissive sound that broke something inside me. "Mom," he said, not even looking up. "Linda's right. You're turning into a hoarder. That album's just clutter. Maybe listen to Emily for once, she knows what's best." He laughed again, and I felt the world tilt, the lake and trees blurring through tears I refused to let fall. Tom grabbed my hand, his voice low and furious. "That's enough. Michael, you don't talk to your mother like that. And you..." "Linda," he turned to her, his eyes blazing. "You don't get to trash our memories and call it a favor." But Linda just shrugged, sipping her wine. "Tom, don't be so sensitive. Susan's the one making this awkward. If she can't keep up, that's not my problem." Ethan and Chloe laughed again, and Emily joined in, her voice sharp and gleeful, as if my pain was a game. I stood there, the crumpled photo in my hand, the tablecloth ruined, the UNO card scattered. The pendant at my throat felt like a lie, a reminder of a son who no longer existed. I'd given them everything, my savings, my dreams, my mother's land. 2 years ago, I'd paid off their $100,000 debt, selling the last piece of my security to give them a home. I'd never asked for thanks, never wanted praise, but now, their laughter, their cruelty, was more than I could bear. They'd mocked me, humiliated me, torn my heart apart and called it junk. That night, as the stars glittered over Tahoe, I sat alone on the porch, the lake whispering secrets to the dark. I thought of my mother, her voice soft but strong. "Susan, don't let anyone make you forget your worth." I'd changed my will last week, leaving my house and savings to a charity for orphaned kids, but I hadn't planned to tell them, not yet. But their actions today, their deliberate cruelty, made it clear I had to stand up, not just for my vacation, but for myself. I began to plan a speech, a moment by the fire where I'd make them see me, not as a mother to be mocked, but as a woman with a heart worth respecting. What happened next? How did Susan find the strength to face her family? And what led to that unforgettable night by the fire? I'm sharing this story because I know you felt it, the pain of giving your all and being laughed at in return. If Susan's struggle resonates with you, stay with us. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Have you ever been humiliated by those you love? What did you do? Let's follow Susan's journey, from the depths of hurt to the spark of courage, by the shores of Lake Tahoe. The sun hung low over Lake Tahoe, painting the water with streaks of gold and pink as it sank behind the pine-draped mountains. I sat on a weathered bench by the lake's edge. My hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea, the steam curling into the cool September air. The cabin behind me, its wooden walls glowing with lamplight, should have felt like a haven. But after yesterday's humiliations, it was just a reminder of how far my dream had crumbled. Linda's mocking voice, Emily's cruel laughter, Michael's cold betrayal, they echoed in my mind, louder than the gentle lapping of the waves. Yet, in that quiet moment, as the roses back home in Naperville came to mind, their petals defiant against the autumn wind, I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't the Susan who'd let her family trample her heart anymore. I was done bending, done breaking. Today, on this second day at Tahoe, I began to forge a plan not for revenge, but for my own worth. I'd spent my life giving baking cakes for Michael's birthdays, sewing costumes for his school plays, selling my mother's land to pay off his and Emily's $100,000 mortgage. I'd never asked for thanks, never wanted praise. But now, after they'd mocked my plans, torn my photo album, spread lies about my cheapness, and laughed as Linda called me a small-town granny, I couldn't keep silent. Last week, I'd changed my will, leaving my Naperville house and savings to a charity for orphaned kids. But I hadn't planned to tell them not yet. Their cruelty yesterday, though, had lit a fire in me, one that burned brighter with every slight. Tonight, by the fire, I'd speak. I'd make them see me, not as a mother to be mocked, but as a woman who deserved respect. Let me take you back to that day, to the lake's shore, where my resolve hardened and my voice found its strength. The morning started with a flicker of hope. Fragile as the mist rising off the lake, I'd planned a simple day, a walk along the shore, maybe a game of Uno with Liam, and a BBQ to reclaim some piece of my dream. I wore my favorite cardigan, a soft blue that Tom said matched my eyes, and my heart-shaped pendant, the one Michael gave me years ago, its weight both a comfort and a wound. Tom was already up, tinkering with the grill on the cabin's deck, his flannel shirt dusted with ash. "We'll make today good." "Susan," he said, his voice steady, his grey eyes holding mine. He'd been furious yesterday, at Linda's slanders, Emily's cruelty, Michael's betrayal. He was my rock, but even he couldn't shield me from what came next. I was setting up the picnic table, spreading my mother's checkered tablecloth, when Linda's voice cut through the morning calm. "Susan, what's this mess?" she called, striding from her fancy cabin next door, her designer scarf fluttering like a flag of superiority. Ethan and Chloe trailed her, sipping overpriced coffee from to-go cups, their smirks sharp as knives. "You're not still doing this BBQ nonsense, are you? I told you, we're having fondue tonight, real fondue, not your backyard burgers. I brought a set from Williams-Sonoma. You should thank me." I paused, my hands smoothing the tablecloth, its stitches a reminder of my mother's love. "Linda," I said, keeping my voice even, "I planned this BBQ for Liam, for all of us. It's simple, but it's what families do. I brought marshmallows, too, for the fire. Don't you think it'd be fun?" Linda laughed, a sound that grated like nails on a chalkboard. "Fun, Susan? You're embarrassing yourself. Marshmallows. This isn't a Girl Scout camp. Liam deserves better than your cheap setup. And this," she flicked the tablecloth, her manicured nails catching the fabric. "This looks like it came from a thrift store. You're stuck in the Stone Age, small-town granny." Ethan and Chloe burst out laughing, and Chloe snapped a photo, probably to mock me on Instagram, where Emily had already painted me as a stingy old fool. Before I could respond, Emily pushed Liam's stroller onto the deck, her black leggings and oversized sunglasses screaming city sophistication. "Susan," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Mum's right. Your BBQ's a snooze. Fondue's way classier, and Liam needs to be around nice things, not this mess. She gestured at the table, then accidentally knocked over a stack of paper plates, letting them scatter across the deck. Oops, she said, smirking. These are so flimsy. You should have sprung for real ones. Susan. My heart sank, the pendant at my throat feeling heavier. Emily, I said, my voice trembling. This tablecloth was my mother's. I brought it for Liam. To make memories. And the BBQ isn't about money, it's about family. Doesn't that mean anything? Emily rolled her eyes, adjusting Liam's hat. Family, Susan. You're so dramatic. Nobody wants your old lady picnic. Mom's fondue is what Liam deserves. Michael agrees right. Babe. She turned to Michael, who'd just stepped out of the cabin, his phone glued to his hand, his expression bored. Yeah, Mom, he said, not even looking at me. Emily and Linda have this covered. Your BBQ's cute, but it's not what we're doing, and that tablecloth, it's falling apart. Maybe it's time to let go of the old stuff. He laughed, a cold, dismissive sound, and I felt it like a punch. Cute. The word was a mockery, coming from the son I'd raised, the one I'd sold my future for to clear his $100,000 debt. Michael, I said, my voice breaking. This was supposed to be our vacation. I saved for a year. I brought the UNO deck you loved, the album with our memories. Don't you remember? He sighed, finally glancing up, but his eyes were hard. Mom, you're making me look bad in front of Emily's family. UNO. That's for kids, and your album's just clutter. Emily said it's falling apart anyway. Stop trying to force your old school stuff on us. Linda's fondue is better. He turned to Emily, who smirked, and I realized he wasn't just ignoring me, he was choosing to hurt me, to please her. Tom slammed a spatula onto the grill, his face red. Michael, that's enough. Your mother poured her heart into this. You don't get to laugh at her with them. But Linda cut in, her voice loud and venomous. Tom, don't start. Susan's the one making a scene. She can't keep up with a real vacation. So I'm fixing it. If she'd spent less on that tacky tablecloth and more on something decent, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She grabbed the tablecloth, yanking it off the table, sending the UNO deck and a bowl of chips crashing to the deck. Oops, she said, mimicking Emily's smirk. This junk's not worth saving. I gasped, dropping to my knees to gather the cards, my hands shaking. Those cards weren't junk, they were Michael's childhood. Our late-night games. Our laughter. I looked up, tears burning my eyes, and saw Ethan and Chloe laughing, filming the mess on their phones. Emily stepped closer, her voice low and cruel. Susan, let it go. You're embarrassing everyone. Nobody wants your sad little picnic. Mom's fondue is the vibe. She kicked a card under the table, her smile sharp as a blade. I clutched the cards, my heart pounding. Emily, I whispered, this isn't about fondue, it's about family. I paid $2,000 for your cabin, more than I could afford. I just wanted us to be together. She laughed, a sound that cut deeper than any knife. Together, Susan. You're holding us back. Mom paid for the real stuff, the cabin, the restaurant. You're just cheap, everyone knows it. She turned to Michael, who nodded, his laughter joining hers, and I felt the world crumble beneath me. Linda leaned in, her voice a hiss. Susan, if you can't handle a proper vacation, maybe you should stay home next time. Naperville's more your speed. Granny. She tossed her coffee cup onto the table, the liquid splashing across the remaining cards, and walked away. Ethan and Chloe trailing her, their laughter echoing like a taunt. I sat there, the ruined cards in my hands, the tablecloth crumpled at my feet. Tom knelt beside me, his hand on my shoulder, his voice thick with anger. Susan, you don't deserve this. They're out of line, all of them. But Michael just stood there, scrolling on his phone, as if my pain was invisible. "Mom," he said, his voice flat, "you're making this harder than it needs to be. Just let Linda and Emily do their thing." He walked off, arm around Emily, leaving me in the wreckage of my dream. That afternoon, as the sun climbed higher, I retreated to the cabin, the lake's beauty mocking my hurt. I sat on the bed, the photo album open in my lap, the torn pages a reminder of their cruelty. I traced the picture of Michael and me at his graduation, his smile so bright, my heart so full. Where had that boy gone? I thought of the $100,000 I'd paid for their home, the land I'd sold, the future I'd given up. I'd never told them, never wanted thanks, but now their laughter, their deliberate malice, was too much to bear. I remembered my mother, her voice soft but fierce. "Susan, don't let anyone make you forget your worth." Last week, I'd changed my will, leaving everything to charity, but I'd wavered, wondering if I was too harsh. Now, I knew I wasn't. I couldn't keep giving to people who tore me apart. I pulled out a notebook and began writing a speech, my hand steady despite the tears. Tonight, by the fire, I'd tell them about the $100,000, about the will, about the woman they'd tried to erase. I'd make them see me not as a mother to be mocked, but as Susan, a woman whose heart was worth more than their scorn. As the sun dipped below the mountains, casting long shadows across the lake, I folded the notebook and stood. The pendant at my throat gleamed, a reminder of the love I'd given and the strength I'd found. I was ready to speak, ready to reclaim my place. But what would happen when my words hit them? Would they laugh? Or would they finally see I'm sharing this story because I know you felt it, the sting of giving your all and being mocked in return? Maybe it was a family member, a friend, or a dream you held dear. If Susan's fight speaks to you, stay with us. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Have you ever had to find your strength in the face of cruelty? What did you do? Let's follow Susan's journey, from the ashes of her dream to the fire of her courage, by the shores of Lake Tahoe. The fire crackled under a star-strewn sky, its golden light flickering across the faces gathered around it on the shores of Lake Tahoe. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and smoke, and the lake stretched out before us, its surface a mirror of moonlight. I stood there, my heart pounding like a drum, a glass of red wine trembling in my hand. The cabin behind us, its wooden walls glowing with lamplight, felt like a distant memory of the dream I'd carried for this vacation, a dream now shattered by the cruelty of my own family. Tom sat to my right, his grey eyes steady, his hand warm on mine. Michael, Emily, their baby Liam, Linda, and her kids Ethan and Chloe formed a loose circle, their faces lit by the fire's glow. I'd never been one for speeches, never wanted the spotlight, but tonight, I had to speak. Tonight, I had to make them see the woman they'd tried to erase. I'd spent the day preparing, my resolve hardening with every memory of their malice. Linda's mocking voice calling me a small-town granny, Emily's cruel laughter as she tore my photo album, Michael's cold betrayal when he laughed at my old-school plans. I'd given them everything, my savings, my dreams, my mother's land to pay off their $100,000 mortgage. I'd changed my will last week, leaving my Naperville house and savings to a charity for orphaned kids. But I hadn't planned to tell them until their actions pushed me to this moment. Now, with the fire warming my face and the pendant at my throat glinting a gift from Michael, when he still called me his hero, I was ready to lay bare the truth. "Susan," Tom whispered, his voice low. "You sure about this?" He knew the weight of what I was about to say. The bridge I might burn. I nodded, my fingers brushing the heart-shaped pendant. It's engraved, "Thanks." Mom, a bittersweet reminder of a love I'd thought was unbreakable. I took a deep breath, the cold air sharp in my lungs, This vacation. I began. My voice steady despite the storm in my chest, was my dream. A dream I've held since Michael was a boy. When I'd tuck him in and tell him stories about Lake Tahoe, the blue water, the pine trees, the stars so close you could touch them. I saved for a year to bring us here. Me, Tom, Michael, Emily, and Liam. I wanted us to roast marshmallows, play Uno, laugh over a BBQ, and just be a family. The fire popped, sending a spark into the night. Michael shifted in his camp chair, his phone dark for once, his eyes avoiding mine. Emily sat beside him, her blonde ponytail loose, her hands fidgeting with Liam's blanket. Linda sipped her wine, her designer scarf catching the firelight, a smug smile playing on her lips. Ethan and Chloe sprawled on a blanket, whispering, their smirks barely hidden. Liam slept in his stroller, his tiny breaths a soft rhythm in the quiet. I wanted to stop, to keep the peace, to be the Susan who always smoothed things over. But I couldn't. Not after what they'd done. I planned every detail. I continued, my voice growing firmer. The cabin, the boat, the burgers for our BBQ. I brought that old Ono deck Michael loved, the photo album with our memories, pictures of us through the years. But you didn't want that, did you? I looked at Emily, then Linda, then Michael. My gaze unwavering. You invited Linda, Ethan, and Chloe without asking me. You booked a bigger cabin, demanded I pay $2,000 money I didn't have. You laughed when I wanted marshmallows, called my plans basic. You spread lies, Emily, told your friends I was too cheap for a real vacation. You tore pages from my album, called it junk. And you, Linda, my voice sharpened, cutting through the night. You called me a small-town granny, humiliated me in front of everyone, demanded more money like I was your servant. And Michael, my own son, you laughed with them, said I was embarrassing you. Michael's head snapped up, his mouth opening, but I raised a hand. I'm not done. There's something you need to know. The firelight danced, and I felt the weight of every sacrifice, every late night, every dollar saved, every tear shed 2 years ago. When you and Emily bought your house in Naperville, you were drowning in debt. Liam was coming, and you were scared. I saw it, even if you never said it. So I paid off $100,000 of your mortgage. I sold the land my mother left me, the last piece of my future, to give you a home. I never told you because I didn't want thanks. I wanted you to have a life without fear. A gasp broke the silence, Emily's, her hand flying to her mouth. Michael's eyes widened, his phone slipping to the ground. Linda's wineglass froze, her smug smile vanishing. Ethan and Chloe stopped whispering, their faces pale. Tom squeezed my hand, his grip a lifeline. But I wasn't finished. Last week, I said, my voice clear as the Tahoe sky. When you mocked me, tore my memories, and treated me like nothing, I made another choice. I went to my lawyer and changed my will. I took you and Emily out of it. Michael, my house, my savings, everything goes to a charity for orphaned kids in Naperville. I'm not angry. I'm done. Done being the mother you laugh at, the woman you humiliate. I love you. But I deserve respect not just for what I've done, but for who I am. The silence was deafening, broken only by the fire's soft crackle. Michael's face crumpled, his eyes red, his hands shaking. Mom, he choked out, standing, his voice breaking. $100,000. You did that. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. He took a step toward me, but I held up a hand, not ready for his touch. Emily's tears streamed down her face, her voice trembling. Susan, $100,000. You're serious. Why didn't you tell us the will? You can't mean that. Her words were desperate, almost accusing, as if I'd betrayed her by standing up for myself. She clutched Liam's stroller, her knuckles white, her eyes darting to Linda for support. "Emily," I said, my tone soft but unyielding. "I didn't tell you because love doesn't keep score, but it also doesn't mean letting you hurt me. You spread lies, said I was stingy. You tore my album, laughed at my memories. You made me feel like nothing." Linda's face flushed crimson, her voice shrill. "Susan, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's just a vacation. I was trying to make it better, classier. You can't afford a real one." So I stepped in. "And this will nonsense. You're being dramatic." She tossed her scarf over her shoulder, but her hands shook, betraying her unease. "Better for who?" Linda Tom snapped, his voice low and furious. "You humiliated my wife, mocked her in front of everyone, demanded money you knew she didn't have. You don't get to play the victim now." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, muttering to Chloe, "This is intense." Chloe nodded, her eyes wide, avoiding my gaze. Liam stirred in his stroller, letting out a soft whimper. And for a moment, I wanted to scoop him up, to shield him from the storm. But I stood my ground, the pendant glinting in the firelight, a symbol of the love I'd given and the strength I'd found. "Mom," Michael said again, his voice raw, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have laughed at you, shouldn't have let Emily and Linda take over. I was trying to keep the peace, but I hurt you, the will. Please, don't do this. We can fix it." He reached out, his hand trembling. But I stepped back, my heart aching but resolute. "Michael," I said, "I love you. I love Emily and Liam. But love doesn't mean I let you break me. You called me embarrassing, laughed when they tore my memories. I'll think about the will, but only if you show me what family really means." I turned to Emily, her face streaked with tears. "And you, Emily, you spread lies, mocked my heart. If you want to be family, start acting like it." Emily sobbed, her voice barely audible. "Susan, I'm sorry. I didn't know about the $100,000. I was stupid, selfish. I didn't mean to hurt you like that." She looked at the ground, her hands twisting Liam's blanket, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine remorse, a crack in her armor of cruelty. Linda stood, her voice sharp but unsteady. "This is ridiculous. Susan, you're turning everyone against me. I paid for the cabin, the restaurant. I made this vacation happen. You're ungrateful." She pointed at me, but her words faltered under Tom's glare. "Linda," I said, my voice calm, "you demanded $2,000 I didn't have, called me a granny, mocked my home. You didn't make this vacation, you broke it. I'm not ungrateful. I'm done being your punching bag." Tom stood beside me, his arm around my shoulders. "Enough, Linda. You've said plenty. Let Susan have her say." His voice was a wall, unyielding. And Linda sat down, her face red, her wine glass forgotten. I raised my glass, the wine catching the fire's glow. "To dreams," I said, my voice steady. "And to love, even when it's hard." Tom squeezed my shoulder, his eyes shining with pride. Michael wiped his tears, his head bowed. Emily clutched Liam's stroller, her sobs quieting. Linda stared into the fire, her silence a concession. Ethan and Chloe sat frozen, their phones forgotten, their laughter gone. The lake whispered beyond us, its waves a soft promise of peace. I sat down, my legs trembling, but my heart light, like the roses back home blooming despite the frost. For the first time in years, I felt seen not as a mother who gave everything, but as Susan, a woman who'd reclaimed her worth. The truth had cut deep, but it had also opened a door to remorse, to change, maybe to healing. But what would happen tomorrow? Would Michael and Emily truly see me? Or would Linda's venom poison them again? I'm telling this story because I know you felt it, the pain of giving your heart and being mocked, the courage it takes to speak your truth. Susan's stand by the fire wasn't just for her, it was for anyone who's ever had to fight for their worth. If her story moves you, stay with us. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Have you ever had to confront those you love? What happened? Let's follow Susan's journey, from the fire's reckoning to the hope of a new dawn, by the shores of Lake Tahoe. The morning sun rose over Lake Tahoe, its golden light spilling across the water, turning the lake into a shimmering tapestry of blue and amber. I sat on the dock, my feet dangling above the gentle waves, a mug of chamomile tea warming my hands. The air was crisp, scented with pine and the faint smoke of last night's fire, and the mountains stood tall, their peaks dusted with the first hint of autumn. The cabin behind me, its wooden walls weathered but warm, felt different now, not a symbol of a broken dream, but a quiet witness to the truth I'd spoken last night by the fire. I'd laid bare my heart, telling Michael, Emily, Linda, and the others about the $100,000 I'd paid for their home, about the will I'd changed to leave my Naperville house and savings to a charity for orphaned kids. Their faces, Michael's tears, Emily's shock, Linda's silence were etched in my mind. But so was the lightness in my chest, the feeling of standing tall for the first time in years. Back home in Naperville, my roses are blooming now, their petals defiant against the October chill. They remind me of myself scarred by frost, but still reaching for the sun. That's what this trip became, not the end of my story, but a new beginning, a chance to plant my heart in soil that would let it grow. The pain of Michael's betrayal, Emily's cruelty, and Linda's venom still lingers, but so does the hope of what came after. Let me take you back to that final day at Tahoe, and the months that followed, when I learned that even at 60, I could bloom again. The morning after my speech, the cabin was quiet, the kind of stillness that follows a storm. I woke early, slipping into my blue cardigan and jeans, my heart-shaped pendant glinting at my throat, a gift from Michael, now a symbol of both love and resolve. Tom was already up, brewing coffee in the kitchen, his flannel shirt rumpled from sleep. "You did good last night, Susan," he said, handing me a mug, his grey eyes soft with pride. "You said what needed saying. I hope so." I said, my voice low, "But I'm scared. Tom, what if they hate me? What if I've lost them?" The pendant felt heavy, a reminder of the son I'd raised, the daughter-in-law I'd tried to love, the grandson I adored. Last night, I'd stood up for myself, but the cost was still unclear. "They don't hate you," Tom said, his hand on mine. "You showed them who you are. Now it's their turn to show you." He kissed my forehead, and I leaned into him, grateful for the man who'd always seen me, even when I forgot myself. As we stepped onto the porch, the lake sparkling before us, I saw Emily pushing Liam's stroller toward the dock. Her blonde hair was loose, her face bare of makeup, her eyes red from crying. She looked younger, vulnerable. Not the sharp-tongued woman who'd torn my album and spread lies. "Susan," she said, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" "Please," I nodded, my heart cautious but open. We sat on the dock, Liam cooing in his stroller, the waves lapping softly. "I'm sorry," Emily began, her words spilling out like a dam breaking. "I was awful. The rumors, the album, laughing at your plans. I was so selfish. I didn't know about the $100,000, didn't know how much you'd given us. I thought you were just stuck, old-fashioned. But I was wrong. I don't want to lose you. Susan, Liam needs you. I need you." Her tears fell, and I saw the girl beneath the cruelty, a young mother, scared of failing, trying to prove herself to Linda's world of designer scarves and fondue sets. Emily, I said, my voice gentle but firm. You hurt me. You mocked my heart, tore my memories, called me cheap. I gave you everything, my savings, my love, and you laughed. I forgive you, but forgiveness isn't a free pass. If you want to be family, you need to show me, not just with words, but with actions. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I will, I promise. I started fixing the album. I taped the pages back. It's not perfect, but I want to try. And the will. Are you really? Her voice faltered, fear in her eyes. I meant what I said. I replied. My gaze steady. I changed the will because I was done being invisible. But I'll think about it. Emily, if you and Michael prove you understand what family means. I touched the pendant, its weight a reminder of the love I still held, despite the pain. Before she could answer, Michael appeared, his face haggard, his eyes red. Mom, he said, his voice raw. I'm so sorry. I was a jerk, a coward. I laughed at you, let Emily and Linda run over you, because I didn't want to rock the boat. But I was wrong. I didn't know about the $100,000, didn't know you sold Grandma's land. You gave us everything, and I betrayed you. He choked on a sob, dropping to his knees beside me. Please, don't cut us out. I'll do better, I swear. I looked at him. My boy, the one I'd rocked through fevers, cheered at baseball games, loved through every mistake. My heart ached, but it was stronger now, tempered by truth. Michael, I said, I love you, but love doesn't mean letting you hurt me. You called me embarrassing, laughed when they mocked me. I need to see you change, not just for me, but for Liam, for yourself. Start there, and we'll see about the will. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I will. Mom, I'll make this right. He reached for my hand, and this time, I let him take it, his grip warm and desperate, a flicker of the boy I'd raised. Emily stood, pushing Liam's stroller closer. Susan, can I help with the BBQ today? Like you wanted. I brought marshmallows. I found some in the cabin. Her voice was small, hopeful, a step toward amends. I smiled, the first real smile in days. I'd like that. Emily, let's make it a family day. She nodded, her eyes bright with relief. And for the first time, I saw a chance, a fragile one, but real. The BBQ that afternoon wasn't perfect. Linda stayed in her cabin, her absence a silent protest, though Ethan and Chloe joined us, quieter now, their phones tucked away. Michael helped Tom grill, his laughter tentative but genuine as he flipped burgers. Emily set the table, using my mother's checkered tablecloth, her hands careful, almost reverent. Liam giggled as I showed him a marshmallow, his tiny fingers grabbing at it, and for a moment, the lake's beauty felt like mine again. We played Uno, the cards worn but cherished, and when Michael won, he grinned at me, a spark of the boy I'd loved. But Linda's shadow lingered. She emerged later, her scarf pristine, her voice sharp. Susan. This is quaint, she said, eyeing the tablecloth with disdain. But don't think your little speech changes anything. I made this vacation happen, my cabin, my restaurant. You're still the same small-town granny. Her words stung, but they didn't break me. Linda, I said, my voice calm. You didn't make this. You broke it. I paid $2,000 you demanded, took your insults, and still gave my family this moment. I'm not your granny, I'm Susan, and I'm enough. Tom stood beside me, his arm around my shoulders, and Michael stepped forward, his voice firm. Linda, stop, he said. You hurt my mom. We're done with that. Emily nodded, her hand on Liam's stroller, and even Ethan muttered, Yeah, chill. Mom. Linda's face reddened, but she turned and left, her scarf trailing like a defeated flag. Back in Naperville, the roses are blooming brighter than ever. The months since Tahoe have been a slow mending, like taping the torn pages of my album. Michael and Emily come over every Sunday, bringing Liam, who started to toddle, his laughter filling my kitchen. Emily helped me finish the album, her hands careful as she pasted new photos, Liam's first steps, our Tahoe BBQ. Michael organized a family BBQ in our backyard, using my mother's tablecloth, and when he hugged me, he whispered, "You're my hero. Mom, they're trying." And I see it their actions, not just words, building a bridge back to me. I haven't changed the will yet, but I'm open to it, watching their steps, trusting slowly. Linda keeps her distance, her calls rare, her venom muted. I found a new rhythm volunteering at the library, joining a book club, planting more roses. My kitchen is alive again, with coffee and laughter, with Liam's toys scattered on the floor. I sit there each morning, the sun spilling through the curtains, and think of my mother, her voice a guiding star, Susan. You're worthy of love. At any age, at 60, I've learned that love isn't just giving, it's standing up, speaking out, blooming where you're planted. My roses taught me that, and so did Tahoe, where I found my voice by the fire and my heart by the lake. I'm not just a mother, a grandmother, a wife. I'm Susan, and I'm enough. This story is for anyone who's given their heart and been hurt, who's found the courage to stand tall. Susan's journey reminds us that at any age, we can bloom again, like roses in the frost. If her story touched you, stay with us. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. How have you found your strength after pain? What's your rose, your bloom? Let's share these stories of love and hope, inspired by a woman who found her light by the shores of Lake Tahoe.